Great Scenes from Great Plays, with your host, Walter Hamden, and starring tonight, Mr. Basil Rathbone in the Barretts of Wimpole Street. Each week at this same hour, the Episcopal families of your own community and the Episcopal Actors Guild invite you to share the dramatic inspiration of great scenes from great plays as transcribed by famous artists of stage, screen, and radio. And now, here is your host, the distinguished actor-manager, Mr. Walter Hamden.
Thank you, and good evening. Our great scenes for tonight come from a stirring play about truly great people. It is the love story of Elizabeth Barrett and Robert Browning, Rudolph Bessier's The Barretts of Wimpole Street. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our guest star, equally at home on radio, stage, and screen, Mr. Basil Rathbone.
Thank you, Walter Hamden, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Basil, you were one of the very first actors to offer your services to this new series, and for that, it's a special pleasure to have you here.
I'm not only a member of the Episcopal Actors Guild, Walter. Mine is also one of the Episcopal community families just mentioned. And may I say I followed this program from the beginning when you gave us again your great performance of Cyrano. And I found it just as said, a half hour of dramatic inspiration. That's why I'm delighted to be here to portray Robert Browning in the Barretts of Wimpole Street. Browning, a great English poet who felt that his poetic function was to coordinate God and his universe. I think his meeting with and his courtship of Elizabeth Barrett makes one of the most stirring love stories ever written.
And we are also especially fortunate tonight in having Miss Beatrice Straight to play the part of Elizabeth Barrett, best known to her friends as Bar. Elizabeth Barrett was an invalid as a result of a childhood fall, and thereafter confined to her charming Victorian rooms on Wimpole Street in the London of 100 years ago. As Elizabeth herself said to the family doctor one day,
"Well, Doctor, if you shut a person up in one room for years on end, you can't very well expect to find her bursting with life and vigor. Why don't you prescribe something really exciting for a change? A gallop 3 times around the park every morning? Or a long sea voyage?"
and as we are about to hear, that sea voyage was to come true through romance. For our great scenes tonight depict the deep relationship between sickness and the emotional and spiritual life, where the real cure proves not to be medicines for the body, but medicines for the soul. And so with Basil Rathbone and Beatrice Straight, co-stars of the current stage hit The Heiress, our first scene from the Barretts of Wimpole Street. We are in London in the spring of 1845 in a charming Victorian house at 150 Wimpole Street. Notice the long lace curtains at the windows, the shining brass doorknobs, the lovely flower boxes, and inside, where Miss Barrett is confined to her room, impressive walnut furniture, hand-painted china, mirrors in black shadow boxes, and of course pillows and couch covers and shawls for the famous and charming invalid and poetess, Elizabeth Barrett. She is reclining on a sofa and talking to her faithful servant, Wilson.
"Please open the door, Wilson. I'm expecting a visitor, and I want the room to be quite fresh. How I wish we could open the window, Wilson."
"Open the window, Miss
Oh,
Barr."
yes, I know it's strictly forbidden. Well, open the door wide.
I'd best cover you well up first of all. There.
Wilson,
Yes, Miss Barr?
have you noticed anything strange in me today?
Lord, no, perhaps a bit absent-minded like.
Then you don't think I'm going mad?
Mercy on us. Mad?
Very well. But now listen carefully to what I'm going to read to you and tell me what you make of it. And after for pastime, if June be refulgent with flowers and completeness, all petals, no prickles, delicious as trickles of wine poured at mast time, and choose one indulgent to redness and sweetness. Well?
I call that just lovely, Miss Barr.
But do you know what it means?
Oh, no, miss.
Does it convey anything to your mind?
Oh, no, miss.
Thank heaven for that.
But then poetry never does, miss. Lisa is not like real poetry, what you make.
But I didn't write that. It's by Mr. Browning.
He must be a very clever gentleman.
Oh, yes. He is indeed.
And now, Miss Barr, if you're all nice and comfortable, I'll just...
Barr, Mr. Robert Browning has called.
Mr. Browning? I can't see him, Henrietta. I don't feel up to it. I can't.
But, Barr, what on earth is the matter? He's wonderfully romantic looking and quite the dandy.
Oh, Henrietta, you're incorrigible.
I know he's been most anxious to call on you. Mr. Kenyon told me so. Why don't you want to see him?
Because, my dear little sister, at heart, I'm as vain as a peacock. You see, when people admire my work, they're likely to picture the poetess as stately and beautiful as her verses. And it's dreadfully humiliating to disillusion them.
Don't be silly, Barr. You're very interesting and picturesque.
Isn't that how the guidebooks usually describe a ruin? As a matter of fact, Mr. Browning has been so insistent that out of sheer weariness I gave way. But I really don't feel that I can see him now, Henrietta. Wilson, please tell Mr. Browning that I'm very sorry, but I'm not well enough to receive him.
But that's not true, Barr. You can't send him away like that. I'm going to bring him up here myself.
Henrietta!
He's wonderfully handsome.
Is my hair tidy, Wilson?
Yes, Miss Barr.
Thank you, Wilson. And Wilson...
Yes, Miss Barr.
No, thank you, Wilson. That will do.
Yes, miss.
Mr. Robert Browning.
Dear Miss Barrett,
How do you do, Mr. Browning?
at last. At last.
I've had to postpone the pleasure of meeting you much longer than I wished. Oh, won't you take off your cape?
Thank you.
I hope you won't find this room very close, Mr.
Oh,
Browning.
no. It's wonderful. You may think, Miss Barrett, that this is the first time I've been here. You're quite wrong, you know.
But
I've seen this room more times than I can remember. It's as familiar to me as my own little study at home.
Oh, come, Mr. Browning. I can't believe that dear Mr. Kenyon described my poor little room to you in detail.
I dragged all the details I possibly could out of him, and my imagination supplied the rest. But he never told me anything about you personally that had the slightest interest for me.
Oh?
Everything he could give me about your surroundings and the circumstances of your life, I snatched at with avidity. But all he said about you was quite beside the point because I knew it already.
But, Mr. Browning, do my poor writings give me so hopelessly away?
Hopelessly, utterly, entirely. To me. I can't speak for the rest of the world.
You frighten me, Mr. Browning.
No.
But you do. For I'm afraid it would be quite useless my ever trying to play act with you.
Quite useless.
And you too, Mr. Browning?
Oh, I'm always just myself.
You have never been yourself in any one of your poems. It's always somebody else speaking through you.
Yes. And shall I tell you why? I'm a very modest man. I am really. So modest I fully realize that if I wrote about myself, my hopes and fears, my hates and loves and the rest of it, my poems would be unutterably dull.
Oh, but those poems of yours, with their glad and great-hearted acceptance of life, you can't imagine what they've meant to me.
You really mean that?
Why, Mr. Browning...
Oh, but of course you do, or you wouldn't say it. And you'll believe me when I tell you that what you've just said makes up to me, 1,000 times over for all the cold shouldering I've had from the public.
Oh, it infuriates me. Why can we never know an eagle for an eagle until it has spread its wings and flown away from us for good?
Mind you, Miss Barrett, I've an uneasy feeling that my style is largely to blame for my unpopularity.
Not quite always. Sometimes there are passages. Here. I have marked one or two in your Sordello which rather puzzled me.
Oh, dear. Yes, Sordello. Somebody once called it a horror of great darkness. I've done my best to forget it.
Here, for instance?
Let me see. Oh, yes. What?
Well?
Extraordinary. What? Well, Miss Barrett, when that passage was written, only God and Robert Browning understood it. Now only God understands it.
Oh, but I love Sordello.
You would, of course you would. And shall I tell you why? Because it's such a colossal failure.
If by a failure you mean an attempt, yes, you're right.
Isn't one such failure worth 100 small successes?
Oh, 1,000 and more.
You think so, too? Oh, but of course I knew that. And what you've just said about success and failure proves to me finally how right I was.
Poor dear Mr. Kenyon. I suppose he told you that I'm a dying woman?
Oh, we're all of us dying.
And that my family life was one of unrelieved gloom?
Yes, he hinted at something of the sort.
Frankly, Mr. Browning, do you find me such a pitiable object?
I find you, as I expected to find you, full of courage and gaiety. And yet, in spite of what you say, I'm not at all sure that Kenyon's colors were too somber.
Oh, but
No. Listen to me. Those colors are not yet dry. They must be scraped off. The whole background must be repainted. And if only you'll allow it, I must have a hand in that splendid task.
But, Mr.
No,
Browning...
listen. I'll dip my brush in the sunrise and the sunset and the rainbow. You say my verses have helped you? They're nothing. It's I who am going to help you now. We've come together at last, and I don't intend to let you go again.
But
No,
please...
listen to me. Give me your hands. I've more life in me than's good for one man. It seethes and races in me. Up to now, I've spent a little of that surplus energy in creating imaginary men and women. But I've still so much that I've no use for but to give. Mayn't I give it to you? Don't you feel new life? Tingling and prickling up your fingers and arms right into your heart and brain?
Oh, please. Mr. Browning, please let go my hands.
Well?
Well, you are rather an overwhelming person. And in sober truth,
No. Don't tell me again that you're afraid of me. You're not. It's life that you're afraid of, and that shouldn't be.
Do you affect other people in the same way?
They've often told me so.
No wonder I hesitated about meeting you, much as I wanted to. You laugh at me, Mr. Browning, but when my sister told me you had arrived, I was so panic-stricken that I all but sent down word that I was too unwell to receive you.
You know, I think I must have been about as nervous as you at that moment.
You, Mr. Browning?
Yes, and I'm anything but a nervous man as a rule. But that moment was the climax of my life, up to now. Miss Barrett, do you remember the first letter I wrote you?
Yes, indeed. It was a wonderful letter.
You may have thought that I dashed it off in a fit of white-hot enthusiasm of your poems. I didn't. I weighed every word of every sentence, and of one sentence in particular, this sentence. I love your books with all my heart, and I love you, too. You remember?
Yes, I thought it charmingly impulsive.
But I tell you, there was nothing impulsive about it. That sentence was as deeply felt and as anxiously thought over as any sentence I've ever written. Oh, no. It's quite useless you're trying to put aside the word with a smile and a jest. I said love, and I mean love.
Mr. Browning, I must ask
All
you...
these months, since first I read your poems, I've been haunted by you, and today you're the center of my life.
If I were to take you seriously, Mr. Browning, it would, of course, mean the quick finish of a friendship which promises to be very pleasant to both of us.
Why?
You know very well that love, in the sense you apparently use the word, has no place and can have no place in my life.
Why?
For many reasons. But let this suffice. As I told you before, I'm a dying woman.
Oh, I refuse to believe it. For if it was so, God would be callous, and I know that he's compassionate. And life would be dark and evil, and I know that it's good. You must never say such a thing again. I forbid you to.
Forbid, Mr. Browning?
Yes, forbid. If you forbid me to speak of you as I feel, and I accept your orders as I must, isn't it only fair that I should be allowed a little forbidding as well?
Yes, but...
Ha, dear Miss Barrett, what a splendid beginning to our friendship. We've known each other a bare half hour, and we've talked intimately of art and life, of death and love, and we've ordered each other about, and we've almost quarreled. Could anything be happier or more promising?
Thank you. And now your host, Mr. Hampton.
Our next great scene is again at Wimpole Street 3 months later. The doctors are amazed at Elizabeth Barrett's improvement. 3 months ago, she seemed more than a little inclined to let life and the world slip through her pretty fingers. Since then, life and the world have become more and more worth grasping. Day by day, she has become better able to take and enjoy the good things everyone has a right to. Friends, the open air, the warm sun, the grass and flowers growing under the sky. A trip to Italy is now in prospect, even though her father is sure to veto it. And now Robert Browning has just come to see her. He takes both of Elizabeth's hands in his.
Tell me quickly. I've been dithering all day with suspense. You've seen them? What they say?
Dr. Ford Waterlow was quite taken out of his grumpy self with astonished delight at my improvement.
Say that again.
Must I? The whole sentence?
Oh, I should like to see it in letters of fire burning at me from each of these four walls. This is the best moment I've had since I got your note giving me permission to call on you. Let me see. How many years ago was that?
3 months.
Absurd. We've always been friends. I've known you a lifetime and over. Of course, I never once doubted that you would turn the corner someday, but even I little dreamt recovery would be so rapid. And Italy. Are both doctors agreed about your wintering there?
Yes.
And when do they think that you'll be fit for traveling?
The middle of October, unless there's a relapse.
Relapse? There isn't such a word. October. October, extraordinary. You know, October suits my plans to perfection.
Your plans?
Yes, don't you remember my telling you that I'd thought of wintering in Italy myself? Well, now I've quite decided. May I call on you often in Italy? Why are you laughing?
In Italy, I'm afraid you'll need 7-league boots when you call on me.
Oh, what do you mean?
I shall be here at Wimpole Street next winter.
Here?
Yes.
But didn't you tell me that both doctors were agreed?
Doctors may propose, but the decisions rest elsewhere.
Your father?
Yes?
He's vetoed the plan?
No, not exactly. But I'm quite sure that he will consider such a trip selfishness on my part, and so make it impossible for me to go.
Didn't the doctors make it clear to him that this move of yours may mean all the difference between life and death?
I believe Dr. Ford Waterlow spoke very forcibly.
Then in heaven's name...
Oh, it's hard to explain to someone who doesn't know all the circumstances. You see, Papa is very devoted to me and depends a great deal on my companionship.
Miss Barrett, may I speak plainly?
Oh, do you think you'd better? I know more or less how you feel about this.
But I don't understand. I don't understand a devotion that grudges you any ray of light or glimpse of happiness and doesn't even stop at risking your life to gratify its colossal selfishness, devotion.
Mr. Browning, I must ask you.
It's not just your comfort and happiness which are at stake now. It's your very life. And I forbid you to play with your life. And I have the right to forbid you.
No. Oh, please don't say
yes,
any
the
more.
right. And you won't tonight. You're too utterly candid and true. At our first meeting, you forbade me to speak of love. There was to be nothing more than friendship between us. I obeyed you. But I knew very well, we both knew, that I was to be much more than just your friend. Even before I passed that door and our eyes first met across the room, I loved you. And I've gone on loving you. And I love you now more than words can tell, and I shall love you to the end and beyond. You know that. You've always known.
Yes. Yes, I've always known. And now, for pity's sakes, leave me.
No.
Oh, please let me go. Leave me. We must never see each other again.
I shall never let you go. I shall never leave you. Elizabeth. Elizabeth.
No. Robert, have mercy on me.
Elizabeth, my darling.
Oh, Robert, I love you. I love you. Oh, Robert, I have so little of all that love asks for.
I love you.
I should have refused to see you after our first meeting, for I loved you then, even though I denied it to myself.
I love you.
Robert, do you know what you've done for me? Because of you, the air once more is sweet to breathe, and all the world is good and green again.
And with those words singing in my ears, I'm to turn my back on you and go?
But, Robert, how is it all to end? What are we to look forward to? And how?
I love you. I love you, and I want you for my wife.
Robert, I can't marry you. How can I?
Not today or tomorrow, not this year perhaps, or next, perhaps not for years to come.
I may never be able to marry you.
What then? If you remain to the last, beyond my reach, I shall die proud and happy in having spent a lifetime fighting to gain the richest prize a man was ever offered. Do you think I'm a boy to be swept off my feet by an impulse or a sentimental dreamer blind to reality? There's no man alive who sees things clearer than I do, or has his feet more firmly planted on the earth. And I tell you in all soberness that my need of you is as urgent as your need of me. If your weakness asks my strength for support, my abundant strength cries out for your weakness to complete my life and myself.
Have you thought what your position here would be like if you went on seeing me after today? Robert, if we were able to say goodbye today, we should have nothing but beautiful memories of each other to last to the ends of our lives.
Is it you who are speaking?
What do you mean?
I don't know you. I thought yours was the courage that dared the uttermost, careless of defeat. Here's life. Life, offering us the best that life can give. And you dare not grasp it for fear it will turn to dust in your hands? I don't know you. I never thought you were a coward.
A coward? I? Yes, I'm a coward, Robert. A coward through and through, but it's not for myself that I'm afraid.
Oh, I know that, my darling.
What's another great or small to me who have known nothing but disaster all my life? But you're a fighter, and you were born for victory and triumph. If disaster came to you through me...
Yes, a fighter. But I'm sick of fighting alone. I need a comrade at arms to fight beside me.
Not one already wounded in the battle.
Wounded, but undefeated, undaunted, unbroken. What finer comrade could a man ask for?
Yes, Robert Browning was indeed the overwhelming person Elizabeth sensed him to be at their first meeting. Now, sometime later, she is waiting for Robert. She is alone with her sister, Henrietta.
One has only to look at your face, Bar, when you're expecting him, and again after he has left you.
I love him, and he loves me. What of it? Haven't I as much right to love and be loved as any other woman?
Oh, yes, dear. But how is it all to end? In your case, it isn't only a question of Papa's consent. Of course, I don't mean to interfere, Bar. All I want to do is to save you any sort... Oh, Mr. Browning.
Robert!
My love. Oh, you look tired.
Oh, I went for a drive and a walk in the park. And then I ran all the way upstairs without help and without one stop.
Now, don't you think you're being a trifle too ambitious?
I don't think so. I'm feeling wonderfully well.
Look at me. What's the matter?
Nothing.
Has your father returned?
No. We expect him today.
Those talking eyes of yours give you hopelessly away. Something's gone wrong. What is it? You must tell me.
Read that letter on the mantelpiece, Robert.
From your father?
Yes. Well?
I think by the look of it, you crumpled up this letter furiously. And I'm quite sure that you pitched it in the grate.
Yes, I did.
Why?
Oh, Robert, don't you see what this means to us?
Yes, and perhaps a great deal better than you do.
Better than I? Oh, you mustn't deceive yourself. You don't know Papa as I do. He's grown jealous of my life here, my pleasures and my friends, and I'm slowly and surely to be parted from them. Oh, Robert, it will soon be made impossible for me to see you at all.
This precious letter may mean all that, but it means a great deal more that you haven't yet been able to grasp.
A great deal more?
It means that you'll be in Italy before the month is out.
Italy?
Yes, and with me. It means that we must be married at once.
Do you know what you're saying?
Yes, I know what I'm saying, and I repeat it. We must be married at once, my darling. Listen to me.
No, don't touch me. What you say is madness. I can't marry you. I can never marry you.
You can and you shall. You'll marry me if I have to carry you out of this house and up to the altar. On the whole, yes. I think this will be our best plan of campaign. You told me last week that Mr. Redley had invited your sisters to picnic in Richmond Park next Saturday, so the house will be conveniently empty. We'll meet at Marylebone Church and be married quietly sometime in the morning. I'll see about the license and interview the vicar at once.
Oh, Robert.
So after the ceremony, I think you'd better come back and take things easily for a week or two. You'll have 6 days if we leave here on Saturday. What?
Oh, stop. I can't listen to you. always thought that Papa was the most overbearing man in the world.
And yet you've known me for some time now.
But I mustn't give way. I daren't. Robert, have you ever thought that my strength may break down on the journey?
Yes.
Suppose I were to die on your hands.
You afraid, Bar?
Afraid? I? You know that I'm not afraid. You know that I would sooner die with you beside me than live 100 lives without you. But how would you feel if I were to die like that? And what would the world say of you?
I should be branded as little less than a murderer. And what I should feel? Well, I leave you to imagine.
And yet you asked me to come with you.
Yes. Yes, I'm prepared to risk your life and much more than mine. To get you out of this dreadful house, into the sunshine, and to have you for my wife.
You love me like that?
I love you like that. Forever.
This is Walter Hamden again, ladies and gentlemen. In a moment, I'll tell you about next week's program. First, an important message I know you'll want to hear.
How much does the mind and the soul have to do with the health and well-being of the body? Now, that is the basic theme of tonight's great scenes from the Barretts of Wimpole Street. Tonight we learn that much of Elizabeth Barrett's supposedly desperate illness existed only in her mind. When she was exposed to Robert Browning's tremendous emotional and physical drive, she was simply lifted out of her illness. Today, the importance of this relationship between the mind and the body is recognized by most modern authorities in medicine, physiology, and psychology. Certainly, there are a great many today suffering from illnesses which, like Elizabeth Barrett's, have their origin mainly in the mind. Frequently, the cure for this kind of suffering is not in medicine or treatment for the body, but for the soul. And such medicine for the soul can often be best found in the guidance of an experienced clergyman. If either you or someone near you is suffering from any physical ailment that might possibly have its origin in the mind or in the soul, why not seek help from the church? If you're a member of any church, go to your clergyman and let him try to help you find better health through greater knowledge of God. If you're not a member of any church, you may find that the Episcopal Church is one that can give you what you need spiritually. To assist you to know something about the Episcopal Church, what it is, what it stands for, and how it offers you a faith that can bring security and happiness in these difficult times, we have prepared an informative booklet called Finding Your Way. Now, this booklet will be sent to you promptly if you will simply send a postcard or letter with your name and address to the station to which you are listening.
I would like to thank you, Mr. Basil Rathbone and Miss Beatrice Straight, for a very moving performance. Next week, friends, we shall present an unusual play, Dark Victory, by George Brewer, Jr. and Bertram Bloch. The story of a man and woman in love and how they tried to close their eyes to the past in the hope of finding a future that didn't exist. And to play the roles of these two unusual people, we shall have Academy Award winner Miss Celeste Holm and the popular star of stage and screen, Mr. Walter Abel. Now, an invitation from the Episcopal Church.
The Episcopal Church welcomes men and women alike to share in the opportunities for service represented by the Church's wide variety of activities. There's important work to do for those less fortunate than ourselves. Work that in the true spirit of the Church makes better citizens of us all. So after services this Sunday, why not have a talk with your rector about it? He'll be happy and grateful to let you know how you can help. Great Scenes from Great Plays, with your host, Walter Hamden, and starring tonight Miss Celeste Holm and Mr. Walter Abel in Dark Victory. Each week at this same hour, the Episcopal families of your own community and the Episcopal Actors Guild invite you to share the dramatic inspiration of great scenes from great plays, as transcribed by famous artists of stage, screen, and radio. And now, here is your host, the distinguished actor-manager, Mr. Walter Hamden.
Thank you, and good evening. Our play tonight is not one of those tales which are briefly told, enjoyed, and soon forgotten, but a story so deeply appealing that it could be told 100 times, and with each telling bring new pleasure. It is George Brewer, Jr. and Bertram Bloch's Dark Victory. And I'm privileged to present as our stars tonight Academy Award winner Celeste Holm and the ever-popular star of stage and screen, Walter Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Hamden. I'm very happy to be here to play the role of Dr. Frederick Steele, and I'm happier still to have as Judith Traherne my patient in the story, Celeste Holm. A lovely star, and a talented star, if I may say so.
Thank you, Walter. Judith Traherne is a wonderful individual. Under her somewhat misleading manner, I think there beats a heart that every woman will understand. I like her so much that sometimes I forget she isn't real.
Oh, but she is, Celeste, as we're about to learn. So let us go together through the open door of our imaginations into Dark Victory. We're in a hotel room. The early morning sun shines through the windows on fine furnishings and on a man's expensive leather bags in the process of being packed. Outside, the traffic of New York City roars down the avenue, but inside, the two men arguing hear only each other's quiet voices.
And I realized last night I was licked, Fred. There are cases beyond the scope of a general practitioner, and this is one of them. So I thought of Dr. Frederick Steele, the best brain surgeon in the city, and I came to you.
Thanks, Parson. You flatter me. But anyway, it's too late. I closed my office 2 days ago, and my train for Vermont leaves this afternoon.
But this is a matter of life and death. I tell you, she's desperately ill. Think, Fred, a girl 27 years old, beautiful, rich, everything to live for, and she'll die unless she gets help. Help from you. What's a vacation compared with that?
I'm not taking a vacation. I'm packing up everything I own, clearing out for good.
Don't mean you're retiring at 35.
Of course not. I'm going to be a country doctor. Parsons, among my old friends and neighbors, human beings I know and can keep on knowing, even when they're well and their case is closed. That's the kind of doctoring I want.
Well, you can at least give me a diagnosis, can't you?
Well, if I can diagnose from the facts you give me here and now.
Very well. The girl's Judith Traherne. She's the daughter of Robert Traherne, the late wire manufacturer.
I don't want her pedigree. I want her symptoms.
5 months ago, she had a queer kind of accident. She was riding cross-country with a chap she knows. They were making for an open gate. She was on his right, and as they came near the gate, he kept well over to the left to give her room. But instead of riding through the opening, she went head-on for the fence, as though she hadn't seen it.
What's that?
She held her horse straight for that fence about 6 feet from the opening. Naturally, the animal shied and threw her. I saw her about an hour after. She'd ridden home, had breakfast, and seemed quite all right. But then she had a fainting spell.
Did she actually faint, or was she just very dizzy?
I couldn't make out. My first guess was her heart. But I think now she injured her head in some obscure way.
What made you think so?
She developed headaches after that, and they've been growing steadily worse. Fred, I'm desperate.
You make it so tough to refuse, Parsons.
Then don't refuse.
Will you promise to bring me back in time to catch my train this afternoon?
Yes, I promise.
All right, then come on. I'll go talk to your Judith Traherne. How do you do, Miss Traherne?
Hello, Doctor.
Oh, How did you get those burns on your fingers?
What burn?
It doesn't matter. Sit down, Miss Traherne.
How nice of you to ask me, Dr. Steele, in my own living room. Or is it your office now?
Hardly resembles an office, does it? Except for the books. Do you read all those books?
Not much. That is, not lately.
Why, have your eyes been bothering you?
No. If you don't mind, we won't talk about my health. It bores me. Parsons insists there's something wrong with me. He's always bringing in new doctors. There isn't anything wrong with me, and I don't like doctors.
You're 27 years old, Miss Traherne.
Yes, and I'm an only child. I weigh 125 pounds. I've had mumps, measles, and whooping cough, all at the proper ages. My father drank himself to death, and my mother lives in Paris. If you're interested, we dislike each other cordially.
So you live alone,
Yes, but in plush surroundings.
as well as lonely?
Lonely? Don't kid yourself, Doctor. I have a marvelous time. All the pleasures of the idle rich. And I like them. Anyway, that's my racket. What's yours?
Mine? High-pressure surgery, Park Avenue clientele, about 10 days off each summer.
Sounds awful.
It is. It's a dreary round into which I've been caught up as you've been caught in yours. But I'm quitting, Miss Traherne. I'm getting out.
Where to?
A little town in northern Vermont. I'm going to be a country doctor there.
I thought you were tops in your line and made loads of money.
The order of my life was still upset.
Order? That's old-fashioned nonsense.
Well, you might take a look someday at the universe around you. You'll find it full of hidden mystery and incredible vitality, balanced and ordered in all its parts. You have only to look, and you'll see.
I intend to, though not quite that way. I want to see the whole show, Doctor. To try everything once while I'm young. Get all the excitement that's going. Have every sensation, every experience there is. Admiration and gaiety and music and dancing and the world at my feet. Oh, dear.
What's the matter?
I haven't done this in years. Talked on like that. You made me. You led me on, and
Now you have a headache.
No,
Yes, and the light hurts your eye.
it does not.
Why did you fall, Miss Traherne?
The horse threw me, Dr. Steele.
But why? Was it because you couldn't see the gate you were headed for?
No, it's not true.
But you were afraid, and you didn't tell Dr. Parsons. And you never told him about your eyes.
My eyes are fine.
Are they? And what about that strange, dull feeling in your right arm?
Oh.
That's how you got the burns on your hand, Miss Traherne, from a cigarette. And you never even felt it because your tactile nerves are paralyzed.
Don't.
I've got to. Your memory's all shot to pieces, too, isn't it?
No.
Stop fighting.
I won't let you talk.
What did you do yesterday? Quickly.
Well, I played bridge in the afternoon. I went to the theater in
The other way
evening.
around, wasn't it?
No, of course. No, wait.
How'd you come out at bridge in the evening?
I don't know. I play so often.
You lost, didn't you?
Yes, I guess so. Rotten luck I've been having.
No, Miss Traherne. Lately, you've been forgetting what cards are out and what's been bid.
All right, that's true. Everything's true. But I can't help it, can I?
But perhaps I can help it. That's why I'm here. Now, will you let me try? Well, Parsons, I've diagnosed the case for you, and a brain tumor,
Glioma.
beyond any doubt, in the temporal and parietal lobes. I've got to operate.
Will it cure her?
Temporarily, but if the x-rays show that the tumor's diffused, and I think it is, she'll get a recurrence.
How long?
10 months to a year. She'll probably never know until the last. She'll just suddenly someday go blind for a minute.
Blind?
It won't last, but that's the signal. Afterward, there'll be not more than a few hours, and then sleep.
Will you tell her?
Well, I can't give her the blunt truth. But I've got to tell her something. After I've seen the x-rays, I'll have a talk with her. Miss Traherne, this may be something of a shock to you, but it's only the idea that's hard to accept and not the thing itself.
If it's to be a punch, Doctor, I'm ready for it. That's not Shadowbox.
You see, according to the x-rays, something's gone wrong in that incredible labyrinth of wires, the brain.
The brain.
Now, don't be alarmed. It's like any other part of the body. It gets out of kilter sometimes, and it has to be adjusted.
Adjusted?
An operation.
Oh, no, I don't believe that. It's absurd, and I won't have it. It must be pretty serious.
It is very serious. It's going to take our combined efforts to beat it, Miss Traherne. I'll need all the help you can give me, all the faith, all the trust.
How long would I have to stay in the hospital?
About 6 weeks.
And then I could lead a normal life again, Doctor? I'd be completely cured?
I think I can guarantee that you'll make a complete surgical recovery.
A complete surgical recovery? What's that mean?
Well, it means you'll get well. Any more worries?
I just wanted to be sure I knew the truth and that you weren't keeping anything back from me. All right, Dr. Steele. I trust you.
Judith, hello!
Well, the great Alden Blaine in person.
It's wonderful to see you back in your old form.
Thanks. To what do I owe this great honor?
Oh, stop it. Get down off that horse and I'll tell you.
Tell me this way, it's safer.
Nonsense. Judith, every time I see you, must you throw up to me what I am with other people. You know it's different with you. You're the only person in the world I respect. The only completely honest person I've ever met.
I've met one myself.
Ah, the brilliant brain surgeon. I'm sorry. Don't be angry.
I don't think I can be today. It's spring, and I've been riding for the first time since my operation. And I never felt better in my life, and I'm free, Alden, free. I'll never have to be afraid again.
Huh?
Not even of you. Now, what did you want to see me for?
Oh, nothing much.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't sulk. If you've been waiting at my house, you must have some reason.
Well, the fact is my publisher's descending on me this evening for a conference. He doesn't like my new book.
Well, I still don't see what I've got to do with that, Alden.
Hmm? Oh, well, I mean, he'll be in a frightful mood, you see, so I thought of a little dinner, very gay, very chic, with a few of my better friends.
Tonight?
Yes. Will you come, Judith? Please.
I can't, really, Alden. I'm having an important guest of my own for dinner. A very important guest.
Let me look at you, Judith. You look splendid.
Do I?
Completely fit. No headaches?
None at all.
Patient dismissed.
Thank you. It's nice to be dismissed. So you're really starting off to be an old-fashioned country doctor
Hideously old-fashioned.
in Vermont.
Way back in the hills of Vermont.
Will you get down here again occasionally?
Oh, not often. I expect they'll keep me pretty busy.
I expect so. And you'll love it. In time, you'll forget us here.
No, Judith, remember this. I'll come to you whenever you call me.
Whenever. But why should I call you, Fred?
Well, no reason, but if you did, I'd come.
But I've interfered with your life enough already, haven't I? You're 3 months late going to Vermont because of me.
Who told you that?
Dr. Parsons. I know you gave up your plans to save my life, Fred, and I can't find words to thank you for it.
Just seeing you as you stand there repays me 1,000 times for anything I've done.
Fred, I'd like to believe that.
Don't you? Judith, I once asked for your complete trust. Now I know that's not enough, Judith, anymore. I want your love, too, Judith.
Oh, Fred.
If I shouldn't have said it, forgive me.
But I've wanted you to say it for so long. I've hoped and prayed you'd say it because I love you, Fred.
Judith, this is the first time I've ever asked. I didn't know it was going to...
You don't even know you can kiss me if you want to.
Judith!
Oh, darling. How do you take your coffee in the morning?
Black. Strong. With no sugar.
Revolting.
Horrible.
Like apple pie for breakfast. They have that in Vermont, don't they, Fred?
They used to.
Oh, Fred, can I have a flower garden? Oh. Can I? And babies. Lots of... Fred. What's the matter? Don't you want children?
Yes, I...
Then there's something wrong, isn't there? Something about the future.
Judith.
You never said I'd recover completely, did you? You said I'd make a complete surgical recovery.
Don't, darling.
And just a few minutes ago, you said you'd come back whenever I called you. You meant if I was sick. You meant I'm going to be sick again. But you didn't want me to know. Fred, you've got to tell me.
I'd hoped with all my soul this wouldn't happen, but it has, so we'll face it. Together, Judith. Hold on to my hand, dear, and listen. As far as surgery goes, you're cured. Absolutely. That's the truth. But there are some things that surgery can't do.
Oh, no. You mean this horrible thing's coming back? And it's another No. No, it doesn't, does it? It means another operation wouldn't do any good. Doesn't it, Fred? Tell me the truth.
That's right, Judith.
How will it happen?
As quietly as going to sleep. There'll be a moment when you won't be able to see as usual. That's all.
You mean I'll go blind?
Just for a moment. Then you'll be perfectly all right again. But after a few hours, 2 or 3, you'll go to sleep.
I see. How much time have I before...
6 months. Possibly 10.
Oh, how nice. How terribly merciful. And you've known this all along, from the very first.
Yes.
And you're still offering to marry me and take me to Vermont with you. It's very chivalrous of you, Fred. So like you.
Judith.
Now I have nothing. Not you, not Vermont, nor the flower garden.
You're marrying me, Judith. You're coming with me.
Thanks just the same, Fred, but I'm staying. Right here among my friends where I can cram every minute I have left for the only kind of living I know. Please go, Fred. And don't ever come back.
Hello, my sweet. Just dropped in to say congratulations on the loving cup.
Oh, that. Take it if you want it, Alden. I don't.
After almost killing your horse and your lovely self to get it.
I wanted to win, that's all. Now I have. Would you mind leaving my dressing room, Alden? I'd like to change.
What's the hurry? You're not going anywhere, except home, that is. Now that all your friends but me have turned against you.
They haven't.
Oh, come, my dear. You used to be honest.
All right, they have. So what?
Nothing. I just thought you might be lonely, even if it's your own fault.
Get out of here, Alden.
The way you've been acting the past 3 months.
Get out.
But I want to stay.
Now look, Alden.
No, you look. In the mirror there on the wall. See yourself as you are now, darling Judith, because you don't realize how you've changed. You ought to be glad there's a man who still wants you.
But not you, Alden. You don't want me, really. You don't know the truth about me. You don't know that in a couple of months, I'm going to die.
You what?
It's true, Alden. Dr. Steele knows. Ask him. He'll tell you my old illness is coming back, and this time it can't be cured.
I'm sorry, Judith. Really sorry. So that's why you've been kicking over all the traces.
Yes. But I'm very grateful to you for pointing it out to me. Because I was going to die a coward and a cheat. And suddenly I find I don't want to. I'd rather be brave for a change. And if it isn't too late, and I don't think it is somehow, I'm going to try to be brave.
Dr. Fred?
Yes. Hello, Miss Jenny. I'm home.
And about time, too. It's past 9 o'clock. I'll get you some supper.
No, please. I had supper before I got here.
Did you, Frederick?
Now, look, Miss Jenny, I'm not in the 2nd grade any longer, remember?
So I can't bully you anymore. Is that it? All right. But I do wish...
Wait. I thought I heard footsteps outside.
No, if there were, the bell would ring. Now, you're just haunted, Dr. Fred.
Nonsense. You think any medical man believes in ghosts?
Well, you may not believe in them, but there's one in your life, and it's made you unhappy ever since you've been here.
No.
No, you can't fool me any more than you could about that supper you said you've just had, and I'm going to warm you up some supper right this minute.
But, Miss Jenny, come in. Come in. The door's open. Judith! Judith, you've come.
Yes, Fred. I've come. I've come because...
No, steady, darling. Don't try to talk now. You're tired. Here, let me take your suitcase. And...
No, wait. Please, before anything. I have to tell you this, Fred. I did what I said I would. I've lived up to every silly boast I made 3 months ago.
But you're here.
I couldn't die without you thinking of me like that. I had to show you at least that at the end, I've learned something, Fred. I won't ask much of you now, except to be here where your strength will help me face things.
Judith, darling, I'll never let you go again.
A man and a dying girl have met to love. Fred, it's too late.
It's not. Not while we're together.
For a moment,
For always.
darling, a moment isn't forever. The shadow's on my life, and I don't want it to fall on yours.
My darling, listen. Between now and now, there's been birth and the passing of life, sunset and dawn. And your shadow's mine, and your victory over it, that's mine, too.
But others, what will they think, Miss Jenny?
She won't know, Judith. We'll never tell her.
Then I'm not afraid of the future. Not with you, Fred. Let it come. Hello? What? Montreal calling Dr. Steele, but he isn't here. I can't tell you where to reach him. I think he's on his way home. So can I take a message? I'm Mrs. Steele. Yes, I'll tell him. Dr. Platt in Montreal, and it's an emergency operation. Yes, he'll have to take the train tonight. I understand. Oh, please don't worry. He'll be on that train if he's needed. You're welcome. Goodbye. Oh, dear.
Now, don't you worry, Mrs. Fred. If he goes, he'll be back soon.
I can't help grudging every second he's away. I better look and see if he's coming.
Any sign of him yet?
There's no car on the road as far as I can see. It's going to snow, isn't it?
What?
Sun's gone in. It's getting dark.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mrs. Fred. The sun's out as bright as ever.
No, Angel, can't you see? It's clouding up faster and faster, growing dimmer by the minute. Why, it's all dark. Completely.
Why, Mrs. Fred. Child, what is it?
Nothing. Things went dark for a minute, as if I were going to faint. But I feel better now. I can see perfectly well again, Miss Jenny. And I'll prove it. There's Fred's car coming down the road now.
That's fine. You can tell Dr. Fred.
I can tell him nothing but that telephone message, and don't you. Or he mightn't go. And it's his work, and he's got to.
But he...
And everything else can wait.
Judith, where are you?
Upstairs, Fred. I'll bring down your bags when I come.
All right, dear, thanks. It's almost time.
I know.
Now, Miss Jenny, here's a list of phone numbers in case you should have to call me.
All right, Frederick.
If anything goes wrong of any kind, you're to phone me immediately. You can reach me at any one of those numbers. And meanwhile, take care of Judith.
You don't have to tell me.
Here are your things, Fred.
Oh, thanks, darling. I better get started then, I suppose. Goodbye, Miss Jenny.
Goodbye, Dr. Fred, and good luck.
I'll be back with you soon. Come on, Judith. Walk to the car with me.
Of course.
It's not a long walk, is it? Compared with some we've taken through these hills.
No.
Judith, darling, if anything happened... Oh, Judith.
Dearest, nothing's going to happen. Go with a quiet mind,
I
Fred.
can't. I thought I could, but I can't. I'll call Dr. Platt and tell him I'm
Fred,
not some...
look at me. We have our love, and we're complete. Nothing can hurt us now, no matter what. See, what we've had can never be wiped out. And that's our victory. Our victory over the dark. It's a real one, darling, because we're not afraid. Not you and I. Not afraid ever. Are we?
No, we're not afraid. Thanks, Judith. I can go now.
And not look back.
And not look back, my dearest.
Hold me a minute. Close. Forever is now. Isn't it, Fred?
Yes. Like this forever. I'm off, darling. Goodbye for a little while.
For a little while, Fred. For a little while. Goodbye, Fred.
Walter Hamden, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back in a moment to tell you about next week's play. But first, an important message of interest to you.
Most of us know very well from the experiences of our own lives the harm that can be done to us and to those around us by fear. We know what damage fear can do to our minds and bodies. We know how fear can disrupt family harmony and community relations, as well as personal happiness. And we know, too, that fear is at the bottom of much of the discord that exists today among nations. In tonight's powerful play, the heroine, Judith Traherne, had to live with a very great fear. The darkness of her uncertainty was the darkness of death itself, for she knew that her days on earth were numbered. Yet great and destructive as that fear was, she was finally able to conquer it by putting in its place an even greater love. The great lesson dramatized in tonight's play is that love can always conquer fear, a principle demonstrated by millions of sincere Christians throughout the world who know how the love of God brings them greater peace and security, helps them to rise above the myriad fears and uncertainties of our modern world. That's why the Christian church is doing so much to relieve the tensions born of fear, tensions between nations as well as individuals. That's why so many are discovering how much more complete and secure their lives are when they make the teachings of the church the foundation of their entire existence. Perhaps you will be able to find the spiritual help you need in the Episcopal Church. You are always welcome at your nearest Episcopal church, and its clergyman is always ready and eager to give you whatever help you may require. To help you know something about the Episcopal Church and how it offers you a faith with which to find security and happiness in these difficult times, we have prepared an informative booklet called Finding Your Way. It'll be sent to you promptly if you'll simply write your name and address on a postcard and mail it to the station to which you are listening.
I would like to thank you, Celeste Holm and Walter Abel, for a magnificent performance. Next week, friends, we shall present an old favorite, Paul Osborne's delightful comedy drama, On Borrowed Time, the amusing and touching story of a very old grandfather and his very young grandson, and a mysterious gentleman trapped in an apple tree. Here to play the role of that victim of strange circumstances will be one of the great stars of stage and screen, Mr. Boris Karloff. I hope you'll join us.
Celeste Holm appeared tonight through the courtesy of 20th Century Fox, producers of Apartment for Peggy.
And now an invitation from the Episcopal Church.
The Episcopal Church in your community cordially invites you to attend services this Sunday morning. If you're not familiar with the location of your nearest Episcopal church or of the hours of service, you'll find both listed in your local newspaper or church directory. Your rector will be happy to have you join the Episcopal family. You'll find him waiting to welcome you personally when the services are concluded.